I think as homeschool parents, it is incredibly important that we know our own personal educational philosophy. This is why you need one and how to find yours. Hi friend, I'm Heidi, creator of Heavenly Minded Homeschool, and while we've been homeschooling for 13 years now, we've vlogged now 7 years of our homeschool and shared it here on YouTube, and I love talking about our family's educational philosophy. Now, when I started homeschooling way back when, I knew nobody else that homeschooled, literally. And that was back in a different day and age of the internet where you couldn't necessarily get the information you can here today. And we really did learn through trial and error, especially in those beginning years, to kind of find our footing. And while I think that's pretty normal for most all homeschool families, it wasn't until we came to this one key piece that really made this huge impact that really shaped our future in home education. And that was figuring out our educational philosophy. Now, I think it's really important because when we don't know where exactly we're going, how we're getting there, right? When we don't have that kind of foundational outline, it can be really difficult. And I think as homeschool moms, how many times have you either been just completely overwhelmed, you get wrapped up in all the different labels and trying to figure out which one you are, and then it doesn't work out right, and you feel like you're back at square one. You're purchasing all of the things that you're not even then using. The kids are miserable. It's all overwhelming and frustrating. And that's not at all what home education should look like. And I think when we start to really refine our family's educational philosophy, it allows us to create a blueprint that's going to make all of those other pieces so much smoother. It really starts to pave that way. And sure, we run into hiccups and bumps in the road, and that's okay, that's fine. It's all a part of the process, but this gives us a lot of clarity through that so that we can navigate those things when they do pop up and we are trying to figure that out. We know what our goal is, we know what our path is, and it has a huge impact. So, how do you go about finding your educational philosophy? And I will quite literally walk you through how I put together ours and what exactly it is. All right. First step in figuring out your own educational philosophy is truly to ask yourself, what is your goal as a parent? It seems silly, I think, in retrospect, but it was the single most important question my husband and I ever sat down and asked. Think of it this way. If you say want to pay off your mortgage early, right? I have a 30-year mortgage, I want to pay it off in 15 years. I can sit down and calculate exactly what I need to do to reach that goal. And many of us, we have these grand goals, right? We have these New Year's resolutions. Oh, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But we never really have that like clearly defined, like step-by-step process to get us to that goal. And so we end up not doing it. So I can say I want to pay off my mortgage in 30 or in 15 years instead of 30 years. But if I don't clearly define out how I'm going to get to that goal and what exactly the goal is, what I have to meet to get there, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I would sit down and calculate out how much I have to pay and what I have to do to achieve that goal in order to achieve that goal. Well, it's the same thing with our kids. I don't think very often we sit down and say, well, what is my goal as a parent? In my time here with my children, while they are here under my direct influence, what is my goal? Because I think so often we get so busy with just, well, we do this and then we do this and society says we do this and our culture says we do this. And so these are just the things we're doing. But when we haven't clearly defined the goal that we're trying to achieve, we end up just doing a bunch of stuff. And then next thing you know, you get to the point where your kids are, 18, 19, 20, they're ready to go off and do what they want to do. And you're like, man, what do we even, is this where I was trying to get to? I don't know. We have so many parents whose children are out of the home now and they're filled with regret. I wish we would have done this. I wish I would have spent more time here. I wish I would have made this a bigger focus. I wish. None of us are perfect. No, don't get me wrong. We're absolutely not. I know I'm certainly not. But we know that when we have a goal, we know what we're working towards, that allows us to really clearly define the steps in which we're focusing on. So when we look at their education, we look at our social calendars, right? We look at all the different aspects of daily life, we can then filter it through the ultimate goal and the steps we're trying to get to. Just like if I was trying to pay off my mortgage in 15 years instead of 30, I would see the clearly defined goal of how much I have to pay extra and all the things I have to do. So when it came to planning vacations or going shopping or doing something frivolous, I would have to put it through that and go, ooh, if I'm going to pay this mortgage off early, I wouldn't be able to do that. I need to readjust here. The same thing, if I know what my goal is as a parent, then I'm really going to look at the things we're doing in the day-to-day to see if it is supporting the steps to reach the ultimate goal. So once you've asked yourself what that goal is, right? As parents, really think about it, pray about it, discuss it. What's our goal? What are we trying to accomplish with these children? We want to start building up those steps now, right? To help us in reaching that goal. So we need to ask questions like, what matters most? And I encourage you to write these down, write down your goal, write down these questions here, and then truly answer them. Have these discussions. What matters most to our family? Like, what's just really important to us? In a very silly way, our family loves racing. We love racing. Auto racing is like our favorite thing. We moved cross country to work for NASCAR, right? Like we love racing. I grew up in a racing family. We love racing. We don't spend much as far as, we don't do like subscriptions and a bunch of entertainment type things, but for our family, it is a goal that we can enjoy racing. And so we have one subscription that we purchase. It is our family's total budget for entertainment so that we can watch races, right? That's a thing that is a priority for our family. Now, I know that's a silly example, not quite an educational one, but it's having those types of conversations. What matters most to our family? Now, I'm going to share my answers and our educational philosophy at the end, so I will answer all of these as well, but you need to ask that question. What matters most to your students individually? So for me, I have 4 children that I homeschool. The youngest is 6, I have an 11-year-old, I have a 13, almost 14-year-old, and the oldest is just about to turn 20. He just graduated a little bit ago. Those are my kiddos that I have, but I have to look at, for them as individual humans, what matters most to them? What are they working towards? What are they struggling with? What are they just really passionate about, right? What are the things for them individually? And then also, what matters most for just your time? One of the greatest blessings of homeschool, and I talked about it on our main channel, Heavenly Minded Home, the other day, but one of my favorite things about homeschool is we get our time back, right? Our time is ours again. I'm not having to give it to the government. It's mine. I get to, do with it as I please. What matters most to your family when it comes to your time? Do you guys like being out and about and doing a bunch of stuff? Do you like, getting stuff done in the morning or staying up late? How do you like taking breaks? What works best for your family? What matters the most to you all when it comes to just the practical time of what you're going to allocate and be spending in doing different things? And so ask these questions, write down your answers so you can start to clearly define what your own educational philosophy truly is. Next, I think it's worthwhile to ask yourself what approach to education will really serve you and your students and your family the best. Now, there are many labels, and that's great, but I don't think it's necessary that we have to totally get caught up in this and figure out, our one thing, and that's what it is. I will say in honesty, whenever I look at those Charlotte Mason, Montessori, Waldorf, right? You go through classical, you go through all the different things. I have found in all these years of homeschooling that while I have a preference of what I want our homeschool to be, sometimes those philosophies aren't what's best for my students, or it isn't what's best really just for the cohesiveness of our family and what we need in that season. So I'm not saying to necessarily, you can go take a quiz and figure out which type of homeschool philosophy, fits with you the best, and that's great. And that can definitely be helpful sometimes, I think, especially if you're totally new and you're wanting a little bit of guidance of how should I go about this? What do I do? But I think it's important to remember that different styles and approaches can serve different children in different ways. I have some children who like things very structured, very cut and dry. I have other students who are just so child-led and off in their own world that all of those constraints are really difficult for them and really just kind of puts them off to the education when I'm trying to keep everything really, really constrained. And so I have to really look and say, okay, in this season of life that my family is facing, this can change from time to time. Sometimes we need this, where other times and other seasons we might be kind of on a different side. But I think it's important to really look at it and go, okay, what is our approach to this? You know, how do we want to see this? What does an ideal day look like? How best do my different students learn? Maybe you don't know those answers yet, but it's going to be a learning process. Something for me that I found early on was Dr. Raymond and Dorothy Moore. And I feel like they should be talked about more. I love them so much. I've collected nearly all of their books. I get them whenever I'm in a thrift store and see them. I found them used online. Many of their books are even in the public domain, but they have their successful homeschool family handbook. I love this one. Homespun Schools is another one, and their way to go about their approach to early childhood education, by far the single most impactful book I ever read was Better Late Than Early. So especially if you have any kids, you know, I'd say like 10 and under, highly recommend them. But starting to become educated yourself in just approaches to education, I think is incredibly important as you go through and start structuring out all of these different things. As you're learning more about it, you're thinking about it. Many of us just came from government schooling. I know I did a public school and I did some Christian private schooling as well. But most of us kind of just have the philosophy of what we went through. But that's not all that's out there. Homeschool isn't just doing school at home. And so understanding more about approaches to education and different philosophies and skill sets, way of thoughts, way to go about education is important to help you just be a little bit more equipped to serve your children where they're at in the different seasons of life that you and your family come across. All right, so now we have come to the fun part. As you've thought through these things, really prayerfully think through them, discuss them, do all of that, we're going to start with writing out our actual homeschool mission statement and goals here. So I'm going to share a little bit of a trick with you all here. I love using something like ChatGPT for this. And what I mean is we're going to take all of these bullet points of the things we just discussed. I love to put them into here and allow it to kind of restate the information for me in a way that makes me feel like, you know what, I've really got this put together. And so what I've done is I've gone to ChatGPT and I've asked it to provide me with a mission statement and an outline of goals for our family homeschool. And then I started to give it the information of what our focus is, right? I just simply started to answer these questions. So I let it know things like our first and foremost thing is foundation of biblical truth, that my children, if my goal as a parent is for my children to walk in the ways of the Lord, then it means I have to teach them what those ways are. But for me, that is my utmost priority as a parent. So therefore I need to make sure that in all the things that I'm doing, I'm supporting the steps I would need to follow to reach that goal of my children truly knowing the Lord. And so that is our strong foundation, the discipleship of our children, but also as us as the parents is really, really important to us. And so I want to share that here in the Chat GPT. I let it know that having strong skill sets in reading, writing, and number sense are very important to us. I believe that if our children can be strong readers, they can communicate their thoughts in a written form, and that they can really know how numbers work and how to work with numbers, that they can learn anything. So that to me is really important. I believe that child-led education is the approach that is just universally the best fit. The more that children are interested in something and have a self-imposed drive to learn, the more they're going to learn, the more they're going to retain, the more enjoyable the whole process of learning is going to be. And so child-led education is very, very important. And then I also wanted to make sure that it noted that them pursuing their own interests and their own God-given gifts is something that I think needs to be fostered in our children. I don't want to train up children that are just little robots and have been told what to think and what to do and all of this. I want them to know how to think critically, how to think creatively, how to really dig in and ask even those difficult questions of life, and then know how to discern truth and find the answers. And so I shared all of these different things here with ChatGPT, and I threw it in there, and now it has given me our family homeschool mission statement, right? This is our educational philosophy, and also an outline of goals. And so I will share this all down below, but the mission statement that it put out was, it says, our family homeschool is dedicated to providing a Christ-centered education that lays a strong foundation of biblical truth. Our highest priority is the discipleship of both parents and children, fostering a deep personal relationship with Jesus Christ. We are committed to developing strong skill sets in reading, writing, and number sense, while encouraging child-led learning that nurtures each child's unique interests and God-given gifts. Our goal is to inspire a lifelong love of learning, adventure, and creativity, equipping our children to think critically and independently, and to live out their faith with confidence and joy. Spot on, right? All of the things I've been saying, that's it in a mission statement. I think it's important to have this written down. I think it's important because we can share it with our family, so we're all on the same page going into this and understanding what our mission and goal here is. And then for those times when we start to get overwhelmed, we start to feel like maybe we're not doing enough. Maybe we need to do what this person is doing. Maybe I need to buy this curriculum. Maybe I need to implement this. I can then take those things that I run across and I can filter them back here through my mission statement and our outline of goals and go, okay, would buying that curriculum support this mission statement? Would signing up for that activity support this mission statement? Would adding this or doing this or focusing time, energy, money into these things here, would those options support this mission statement? Does it meet our educational philosophy? And so when I start to second guess myself, because it happens every year, I don't know why it does, when I start to see other people and what they're doing in their homeschool, or somebody brings up this, or I'm worried about that, I can filter it through this statement here and then start to discern. Should we add it? Should we change it? Should we do this? Or are we on track here, focusing on the things that we all agreed were our actual focus? I think that makes it very, very invaluable to know what your educational philosophy is and to have a mission statement for your homeschool. This might change in future seasons, and that's okay. But going through this exercise, pulling a statement together and then filtering everything you're planning out through that really makes a huge impact. So I also went ahead and asked it to give us an outline of goals, and I will leave those down below in the description. So if you want to check them out and see what it came up here for us, and then you can also go back and watch our kind of plans for the 24-25 homeschool year and see how those line up, if they do, if they don't, right? Again, not that you have to live by this ChatGPT outline, but what it really does is it takes the information you fed it, right? These are the things based off of the conversation we had here in today's video. These are the goals we have as parents. These are the things that are important to us. And once you kind of put it through that filter, it's really great because it does give you this idea of an outline. Now, if you need to adjust and tweak, that's great. That's fantastic. This is just a tool. ChatGPT is just a resource. But getting this outline of goals, for me, it broke them down, our spiritual growth and discipleship, because I told it that was a priority. It broke it down into some academic excellence, which is very important. Obviously, it's their education. It talked about the focus of child-led education, because to me, I believe that is something that is incredibly important. It gave us some things for critical thinking and independent learning, and then finished it up with love of learning, adventure, and creativity. I was quite impressed to see the results that I got, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Did you finish this exercise, right? Did you do this? Pull up ChatGPT, it's free, you know? Put this information into it, see the information that it gives you based off of your answers here in this exercise. Because knowing where we're trying to go with our kids, what's our focus, what matters, being able to line this up and put it together, at least even just to organize our thoughts and goals, really is going to be a valuable thing to have as we go throughout our homeschool year. Take it from a mama who's done it for way too long and spent way too many years not pulling my thoughts and goals together. This really does make a big impact when you hit those difficult moments, when you start to second guess, when you get that fear of missing out and you see everybody else in their homeschool day and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that. Should we do that? Oh, we don't have morning basket. Should we have that? You start looking at these different things. Go back to this and use this as your compass to help guide you as you prayerfully go through these things and ask the Lord to really equip you to find that proper balance that really does serve you and your children. So sweet friend, I hope this can be a bit of help and encouragement to you here today as you pursue your homeschool with your children. I think homeschool is the most beautiful, wonderful, amazing thing. It's the best decision I've ever made as a parent. And if you would like to see more about our current homeschool year, be sure to check out this playlist right up here. Otherwise, we have some great links down below. Subscribe and turn on your bell notifications before you head out so you can see all the other wonderful resources we have to share here at the Heavenly Minded Homeschool. See you in the next one. Bye, friends.